Keeping it real, people. Keeping it real. On the way to the gym again. You see, what we have to do, we have to fend off the demons. Because they're everywhere, you know. They are. They're following you everywhere. They're just waiting for a moment of your laziness, of your lethargy, of your lack of passion for life. They're just waiting. And then when they see that, they're going to pounce and they're going to cling on to you. And they're never going to let go. And they're going to drag you down. And they're going to make you go fatter. And they're going to increase your level of apathy. And they're going to take the joy out of your life. And they're not going to allow you to go out into the natural world and see the beauty and bask within the kingdom of God. No. You know, some people, I mess around, don't I? I'm an interesting character. And so I just, I make things more interesting.
I could just sit there in one room and I'm telling people this, that and the other.
That ain't happening. It's not happening. I could be Rupert Spira. God forbid, in another life. God forbid. If we do not keep our bodies in tip-top condition, then, of course, evil will be upon you. And if we look at an evil being something which isn't a good, then anything which isn't a good is an evil. And so when you have anxiety, depression, states of lethargy, when you don't see the joy in life, when you are disinterested in the natural world about you, don't you think it stands to reason that you have mind viruses? Because when those mind viruses are gone, people, you are actually basking in the kingdom of God. And this is my theme, and it's been my theme forever. Because I've been to hell, I've been to heaven, and many places in between. There are many dimensions, many mansions in God's kingdom. There are many dimensions to consciousness. You see, the kingdom of God is a dimension of consciousness, people. And all that people have done in the past is project their mind out onto the blank canvas of life. And we've created all things pertaining to the human being. There is nothing outside of human perception that makes itself apparent to us. And nothing outside of human perception that makes itself apparent to us. Yes, it has to be within human perception. Otherwise, it isn't in our world, is it? You see, you get lots of people speaking about different dimensions being here and now, and different frequencies. We only see a very, very tiny, narrow parameter of the spectrum of light. We only hear a tiny, tiny parameter of decibels of sound. And so, just because we don't hear it, we can't say that it's not here. Everything potentially is here. The full spectrum from one polarity to the other. When we look at the spectrum of light, if it's 1 mile long, we see a slither about as thick as a pencil. And so lots of animals, they perceive the world far greater in lots of respects than we do. And so it's all down to perception, but we can increase our levels of perception. Now, Aldous Huxley, he wrote this famous book the doors of perception when he took some mescaline. Now, Aldous Huxley was a brother of Julian Huxley, and they were very educated, well-to-do folk, and Aldous Huxley, he wrote A Brave New World, and so he took this mescaline one day, and then he wrote this Doors of Perception, how his perception increased exponentially into other paradigms and other worlds. And so I'm all speaking to you about my use of entheogens and how they have expanded my consciousness exponentially. And then I go one step further to proclaim my enlightenment. Lots of people will say, oh, if somebody says they're enlightened, then they're not enlightened. It's just a very, very stupid thing to say. Lots of people don't want to hear anyone saying that they're enlightened, because it means that somebody's got something more than me. People don't like to hear people saying the truth. They call it bragging. They call it ego. And, you know, I wonder if Picasso and Rembrandt and those sorts of people ever would dare utter that they were good painters. I'm a good painter. You know, there was one singer once, and I'll remember eventually, I suppose, who it was. And he said, I'm a good singer. I'm a good singer. You know, some people are good plumbers, some people are good electricians. I'm a good singer. Why can't I say I'm a good singer? Why aren't you allowed to say things about yourself? Why aren't you allowed to recognise things about yourselves and tell other people? Because many other people don't recognise. I mean, look, we can be good at things, and we can have, let's say, you know, you've got a PhD in whatever realm, and they're very well versed in whatever particular subject. Then they're good at that. And if they don't ever talk about the things they discover and, you know, their prowess in a certain realm, well, nobody would ever know, would they? Unless somebody else tells them, oh, he's a good this, that and the other, you know. And then people go, oh, is he? Oh, okay. And they accept it very readily. You can be told something by the most stupidest of persons, and then people will accept that. But try to say it yourself and nobody will want to accept it. But you see, like I said yesterday in the video, I'm a revolutionary, and I've come here to revolutionise everything. And that's what I've been doing all my life. And so, for those of you that don't even know what enlightenment is, well, I mean, the first thing to do then is Google it. What does Google say? Everybody's happy with what Google says. On the first fucking page, everybody will accept that. No problem at all. And so what does it say? It says spiritual enlightenment is a state of consciousness which is over and above the average state of consciousness. Simple. That's it. And so my consciousness is vastly over and above the average state of consciousness of the fucking sheeple, automaton, and all that. And many of yours is also. And so I don't think we need to be too bashful. I don't think we need to be too reserved. I don't think we need to be too self-effacing and not say anything. Just fucking say it. Just fucking say it. I've climbed a mountain. I climbed a 20,000 foot mountain. The highest mountain in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro. Almost died on the fucking mountain, by the way. But I climbed it, and I tell people I've climbed it. And I tell the story, and it's in my book. One of the nights I nearly died. I nearly died 4 fucking times in my life, people. So that was an amazing journey. And so I've climbed a mountain. How many people have climbed a mountain? How many people have climbed a 20,000 foot mountain? It's only 8,000 feet less than Mount Everest, people. It's quite something. And it took 7 days to do it. And You know, you don't go up a fucking mountain and come back down again in an afternoon, people. You know, it becomes a way of life. It's a proper arduous journey of a physical magnitude and of a mental magnitude, of a spiritual magnitude. It's a proper fucking journey, climbing a mountain is. Because you're always going to be close to death. So, being spiritually enlightened is an expanded state of consciousness over and above that of the masses. And so, for any of you guys who have had spiritual experiences, a few out-of-body experiences, you've taken a few psychedelics, and you've had a few experiences in your meditation, well, unless something very ridiculous has happened, then you'd be enlightened. Because you will have seen into other dimensions of consciousness. And your consciousness, your awareness, would then be vastly more than other people's who haven't been there. And so I would think also that you can include, let's say, global travel. You don't necessarily need to have any supernatural or spiritual or entheogenic experiences. If you've travelled the world, your consciousness would have been expanded in lots of cases. I've known people that have done a lot of travelling and they're as stupid as a fucking brush, and I just can't fathom how that happens. You see, when I was younger, I always used to be travelling. Well, I was travelling all my life. But when I used to go away, and always on my own, just with a fucking rucksack on my back, and I'd be gone for months, sometimes years, and I'd go back and I'd see my mates, and they'd absolutely love my stories, because I've always been a good articulator, good orator, good storyteller, and I encounter a lot of fucking stuff. And the way I tell it, you know, with humour and, you know, quirks and stuff like that. So they'd all love my stories. And then one of my other friends, he went to live in South Africa for 5 years. And when he came back, he never had anything interesting to say. He never even had a fucking story. And our friends were like, what the fuck? Did you just fucking go into a coma? Because as far as I can see, or we can see, you didn't go anywhere, mate. You went to South Africa and you've got no fucking stories. Like Aaron, he's got a fucking billion stories. He only needs to go to fucking France or down in fucking London, he's got a billion stories. Yeah. And so his state of consciousness was minuscule. Never learnt anything from his journey. Never grew from it. Nothing. And you wonder how this happens, don't you? You wonder how it happens. So, what we have to know then, that people are born with a level of enlightenment. Their consciousness is already vastly more than the average. From a kid, I always saw the world very, very differently. And I know lots of you do, from what you say and what I was speaking to you about. Things like that. The conversation I was having last night with Richard. When we've had these experiences, we just go into different dimensions of consciousness, people, that most people don't go into. And so therefore, of course, we have enlightening experiences. We see things with the greatest of clarity. We see things that other people don't see. We have a vast increase in our awareness, and that puts us in a whole different category. But the simpleton doesn't like to hear that. They don't like to acknowledge that. They absolutely hate it if you are remotely a braggart or anything like that, because they're nothing people. If there were something people, then they'd have something to brag about themselves, wouldn't they? And they wouldn't mind you bragging, because they'd give them license to fucking brag. And if you don't want to brag about the stuff you've done, then shut the fuck up and don't brag. You know, be like probably my mate that went to South America. South Africa. And come back and never said a fucking word. Did he grow? Did he have experiences? Or was it that he just couldn't articulate them? He just didn't have that, you know? Yeah. So, to be spiritually enlightened, people, isn't any real big deal. Now, years ago I did research into, well, what is spiritual enlightenment? Because when you start talking about this subject with people, even so-called intelligent people. They'll go, oh, I don't think I'm spiritually enlightened. I think I'm awoke, but spiritually enlightened. I mean, what the fuck's wrong with you? What the fuck's wrong with you? Why don't you think that? Let's just say, for instance, well, who's supposed to be spiritually enlightened then? Oh, these gurus that wear dusty sandals and sheets and turbans and shit like that. Oh, of course they're spiritually enlightened. Look at them. Look at the length of the beard. And look at how skinny and fucking emaciated they are. And look at that dirty nappy they're wearing. Of course they're enlightened. It's because there's a level of ignorance there. That just because they're different, just because they're swarthy and they walk around in a nappy all their fucking lives, then, whoo, they've got to be enlightened. It's the fucking pig ignorance of the Muppet that doesn't have a fucking clue. So when you get inside these Indian gurus' minds, and then when they tell you their story or they write their stuff, and then you see, well, what is enlightenment from their estimation, and then they'll tell you, when you know you are not the fucking body. That's it. Period. Over. When you know that you are not the fucking body, and the body isn't the be-all and the end. When you step outside of the ego program, which the vast majority of people will never ever do. When you leave the body, when you have a deep meditation, when you have a samadhi, the world becomes absolutely still. And you're connected to it, and it's wonderful, and it's incredible, and the ego isn't there. What is here is the senses. The senses remain, and you can see the world without all of the pollution that you've gathered up through the years with your stupid ego, which says, that's the lamppost, that's the tree, that's the bush, that's all that is, that's just plants down there, nothing to see here, nothing to see. And so that's the world they live in, there's nothing to see. And so when I'm speaking with Richard last night, he said, well look, when you walk around and you're stopping and you're looking at the first signs of spring, people. You're always looking. I'm looking every single day because it comes earlier and later depending on, the year. And so now I'm ahead of the fucking game because most of you people and the people out there haven't got a fucking clue. You still think you're in the heart of winter. But if you open your eyes and you look closely, and then you see that the birds and all the animals, they've already mated. They were mating at fucking Christmas time, people. And now they're getting ready to have their young. And so Providence, he's ready to give birth every single day. Now, she's been pregnant for about 6 weeks. And 6 weeks is supposed to be the gestation time. And so it's got to be any day now. But, true to form, you just can't believe what you listen to on YouTube or read on fucking Google because they're all copycat motherfuckers. And so you've got to see it with your own fucking eyes. And so I'm seeing it with my own eyes, and it's most certainly been 6 weeks now. And so if it goes on another week, it's 7. If it goes on another, it's 8. And I've blown all this bollocks out of the fucking water, which it says on YouTube. They say, oh, it's only 4 weeks, the gestation of squirrels. Well, it's already been 2 weeks longer than that fucking now. So somebody hears some shit, and then they just fucking copy and paste it all over fucking YouTube. This is what I'm telling you, don't waste your fucking time there, people, unless you're exceedingly selective about what you're watching, because your mind's just getting filled with shit, and you're being controlled by the clickbait fucking demon, which is guiding you and leading you into obscurity, and it's just filling your mind full of clickbait fucking bullshit nonsense. And I keep telling you, if you want real information, you've got to experience it. And then just start reading with books which are at least 100 years old. And that's where you want to stay. You want to stay with books which are 100 years old or more. And that way you get out of the trap of the modern times, people. With the over-sensationalizing every fucking thing, and the copying and the plagiarizing. People writing books who don't have the actual experience, and people that write about Carl Jung. Carl Jung said this and Carl Jung thought that. Fucking read Carl Jung. That's what I say. Don't entertain these pricks. Read fucking Carl Jung, go to source. So I said in a video a few days ago, I said what I've always done whenever I've wanted to know anything, I go back to ground zero. I go back to trace the earliest fucking accounts of anything which has been written. And I've done that with the study of psychology, with spirituality, with science and fucking biology, every fucking thing. You just go back to source, people. And then you come up from there, reading the appropriate stuff when people were discovering all this stuff firsthand. And so, yeah. I listened to these gurus, and I've listened to Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti was a very, very well-renowned guru, and he was very intelligent, and he was enlightened, but the only story he had of the supernatural was that one day, spontaneously, he just left his body. Only for like 30 seconds. That's the only out-of-body experience he's ever recounted. And to my knowledge, listening to a great deal of what he said, I never heard him speak about anything else which was supernatural. Then you've got Mooji. Mooji says something similar. He probably fucking plagiarised it. One day he was just walking out in the fucking sunshine, this and the other, and then, you know, he had this tingling all over and everything, and next thing he was out his body, looking at himself walking down the track. Then you've got Sadhguru, and Sadhguru will tell you that, you know, in the Himalayas, people go on these pilgrimages. They go to this fucking mountain, and it's supposed to be the home of spooks and spirits and all that. And you can get in touch with them, you can feel them, this and the other. Well, I don't doubt that, you know, this stuff is reality. But people walk, I don't know, about 7 fucking days. It's an arduous task. You know, they do it with a purpose. You know, a pilgrimage. And so he reckoned he had a spiritual enlightening sort of thing, feeling the samadhi, you know, the connection with everything. And so that's basically what it is, people. You know, in my book and in my videos, I speak about fucking scores of these experiences. Fucking scores of them. And, you know, a good deal of them are entheogenically induced. And so it isn't a cheat, it isn't fake, it's nothing to do with that. It is just as real as anything which would come about spontaneously. But what you do is you induce them by giving yourself a mass influx of DMT. Because when we have spiritual experiences, people, it is the release of DMT that brings those about. Many people are certain about that. And so, well, if it is DMT that's being released, that gives you these visions and these experiences and this that, and the other, well, fucking just take a shed load of DMT. And when you do that, boof, you're there. Boof, you see God in the clouds. Boof, you see angels. Boof, you see fucking demonic creatures. Boof, you see faces and creatures everywhere. Boof, you're in samadhi. You actually are. You know, when I take DMT out in the natural environment, I'm in samadhi every single time, because what DMT does, it completely kills the ego. And you are in a state of cosmic consciousness, and you're looking at a very, very peculiar world, because there is a simulacrum which comes over the world, and it's like the world is painted in watercolors. It is very, very Alice in Wonderland. It is very Avatar. It's a cross between Alice in Wonderland and Avatar, and those sort of things. And then these movies that you see, these enchanted woods where you've got the trees all alive and talking trees. It all goes on, people, when you've got DMT. You know, everything that they've made movies about and wrote about, they have been human experiences. And I would say that none of them are purely imagination, because even when people they write fiction about going into space and this and the other, you can go into space with an out of body, you can go into space with psychedelics, people. And so I swear that that's what they've done. That's where most of this stuff comes from. So spiritual enlightenment, people, is one thing, but just general enlightenment is another. If you travel around the world, seeing different cultures and experiencing different things, particularly if you're on your own, when you're on your own, you spend a lot of time on your own, then you become exceedingly perceptive, because you've got nobody else to rely on. You've got nobody else to say, let's go here, let's do that, what do you think? You're not relying on what anybody else thinks. You've got no concern for anybody else. It's you in a country, on a part of the world where you don't know anybody. And very often, if you get off the beaten track, there's no fucker there in any case. So you've got no one to rely on. You've got no one to converse with. You've got no one to share ideas with. And so, well, your consciousness seeks another arena. And so, people, that's enlightenment for you. And that's why I don't have any reservation at all in saying that that's what I am. And the thing is, if you are enlightened, then also you are the cosmos. Because when you are enlightened, you know that you are cosmic consciousness. When you have a samadhi, you know that you are one with the cosmos. So therefore, when you are enlightened, you are the cosmos. So can you see why I say I'm the cosmos? You know, for people that can't get their heads around this, they've got no experience and they've got not got the cognitive ability to be able to rationalise with it. But more than that, you need a certain something. You need more. You need the expanse of consciousness before you really know it. Otherwise, you don't know it. Otherwise, you just think, oh, that's stupid. Aaron says he's the cosmos. Well, that's fucking stupid. He's just a fucking pink ape, same as everybody else. None of us are pink apes. That's just a fiction, you see, people. So you're living a fucking fiction. I'm living the reality because I am the cosmos. I am cosmic consciousness, which is every fucking thing. And this is all the dream within my consciousness, cosmic consciousness. So therefore, God is consciousness. God is cosmic consciousness. And if we are in touch on a higher level with those things, then we are it. And for goodness sakes, you know, if you don't want to fucking accept it when I say it, and if you're Christian, or even if you're not, well, that's what Jesus was banging on about all the fucking time. The kingdom of God is within you. I rest my fucking case, people. I rest my fucking case.